I can just look at some relationships and know immediately those two people don't belong together. And sometimes looks can be deceiving, right? Not in the sense of me getting it wrong, but in the reality that sometimes it looks good on the surface, but when you take a deeper look, you realize again, these two people do not belong together. And I've noticed in coaching so many individuals, some very clear signs that say this relationship is going to fail, all right? But many people have either become unaware of these things or seem to want to overlook and push past it because you've been led to believe that this is normal. You know, who doesn't go through this or that? You basically try to move past these red flags only to have those same red flags end the relationship. So what are some of these signs? Well, one of those signs is sexual incompatibility. Now, I know some of y'all are thinking, wait a minute, how do we know we're sexually incompatible unless we have sex? And technically we should be waiting, right? Well, listen, number one, you don't have to have sex to discover that you two are not compatible, all right? Or that there's even a foundation for compatibility. I believe that many people have their perception of sex, it's misguided, all right? So what do I mean by that? Essentially, listen, if we would just sit and talk to each other, we could discover very early on if this can really go anywhere sexually. And we have to understand it's important to have that discussion because we can't have this mindset of, oh, well, sex doesn't really matter. It's not important. Listen, for the health of a long-term relationship, and especially specifically marriage, sexual fulfillment is very important, all right? And there's several layers. I'm gonna try not to go through every single last one, but I'm gonna highlight some very important ones you need to understand, all right? Now, real quick, before I get to that, sexual incompatibility. Let me give you an example. Let's just say you're a woman or a man who likes certain sexual behaviors in the bedroom, all right? You're very open sexually. Maybe you're into some kinky stuff, right? And these things are important to you. Like, it isn't just I like to do it here and there. Like, no. My sexual experiences aren't fulfilling unless I have this kinkiness involved. So now you're dating someone, you're getting to know someone, or you're getting a relationship with them. And many people, in fear of scaring off this partner or talking about too much too soon, will withhold this information. But it makes no sense because if you let it be known, I'm into that type of stuff. And that person from the jump can say, oh, hell no, I'm not with it. What are we trying to make work here? There's no way this relationship is going to succeed. It doesn't matter if you guys get along great. It doesn't matter if there is a high level of attraction. If you two are not on the same page sexually, you guys are going to now experience a huge disconnect in the relationship going forward. And that disconnect will now start to turn into other issues. So that disconnect can turn into you and that individual going elsewhere for sexual fulfillment. So clearly cheating, infidelity of any kind is going to now bring down that relationship. It will ensure its failure, all right? But even if you're like, you know what, I don't like this, but I'm not a cheater. I'm not gonna go out there and cheat. Okay, cool. But you not getting what you feel you need and fulfilled sexually will lead to resentment, will lead to in some cases, anger, frustration. And what happens is that starts to pour into other areas. Now, when you talk to them, you may have an attitude because in reality, you're frustrated that you can't get what you need sexually. One way or another, it starts to have a huge negative impact. And again, if you sit down with enough couples, one of the things that creates a lot of problems in relationships is sexual incompatibility. Now, understand this. I'm a firm believer that the reason why sex is designed the way it is from a biological perspective and even spiritual perspective is because it is intended to help us bond and come closer together, all right? So it is a mechanism of greater connection, attachment, whatever you want to call it. It helps two people stick together. And let me be more specific. When the sex is great, all right? If it's bad, that's a whole different thing. But great, good sex strengthens a relationship. period. Now, for some people, it unfortunately keeps them in bad relationships or contributes to it. But when it's a healthy, good relationship and you can add great sex on top of it, oh, those two people ain't going nowhere. So knowing that it's designed for that, if you remove that from the relationship, you remove a huge piece of the puzzle that creates success. This is why it cannot be ignored. It's extremely important. So again, we've got to, I'm not saying have sex with every person you date. I'm not saying that sex needs to be of the highest priority in the relationship, but I am saying we need to make sure we are on the same page, because if we are not, that relationship is going to fail, plain and simple. Oh, and one more thing about this sexual incompatibility before I move on to the next point. I've seen so many relationships, and I have to say this, especially I've seen this with women, where women will meet a nice guy, a great guy, you really like this guy, but things are lacking sexually. Now, before I finish that point, I'm jumping around a little bit here. Let me also highlight this. I actually believe that having sex with each other too soon can in many cases actually blind you from the sexual potential in the relationship. And I say that because in many cases, and more specifically in cases where people have genuine feelings for each other, are genuinely interested, a lot of times individuals, man or woman, can get nervous, have performance anxiety. There are different things that contribute to them not being able to be fully present in the sexual experience, therefore translating into a subpar or bad experience. And people, because we live in this microwave society where they expect each other to be of a certain sexual level right away with each other, if it's lacking, that will then be used as a reason to say, you know what, I can't make it work here. When in actuality, it wasn't that it could not work. It's that it just needed some time for the person to become comfortable, for people to get better know each other. Because the reality is that, listen, sex ain't rocket science here. We can learn it. We can get better. There has to be a willingness to, and there has to be a gaining of information and knowledge and wisdom about each other, what our likes are, what works, what doesn't work, so that we can make the experience a lot better. But again, people moving too fast can sometimes give a false representation. It can create a perception that things won't be good that could actually be great, but it can also create the false representation of great sex that will not last, because those two people don't have the core ingredient, which I will mention at the end of this video, the core ingredient that ensures long-lasting, high level of sex within a relationship. And so what you're seeing initially is that person's desire to put on a great performance, that person's desire to want to impress you. A lot of people want to put out their best work early on, but what they need to be able to keep that up isn't actually there. And that's why you see it fall off. So many people who get involved sexually very soon start to notice things waver off in that relationship as things go along. And some people love to think or want to believe it's because, oh, well, that's what marriage does. Marriage kills the sex. No, marriage didn't kill the sex. If anything, there was something already missing, and marriage may have more exposed that issue that was missing. But to get back to the point I wanted to add to this was, I see a lot of women meet a guy, great guy, like him, sex isn't that great, and convince yourself that, you know what, I don't want to let go of this amazing guy, this great guy, because the sex, so I'm going to hold on to him, even though he doesn't fulfill me sexually. And it might also be because, well, you haven't really been fulfilled sexually by any of the men that you've been with before, so to you, it's par for the course. I get it, but again, you got to ask yourself, can you really deal with this in the long term? And can you still be willing to pour into him sexually if you're not getting what you need from him sexually? Because that's the key. It's not about can you deal with this and still hold on to this great guy. It's can you accept this at a level that allows you to still show up for him sexually in the way that he needs you to? Because the reality is that if you are not satisfied, you are less likely to want to consistently satisfy him. And it goes vice versa. It can happen both ways, but I see it happen so much with women. And so don't trick yourself into believing you can make this work. This is why I'm saying to you, sexual incompatibility is a sign that relationship is going to fail. And you cannot overlook that, because again, it's not just about what you're willing to deal with, is can you still give him what he will need in return? Now, number two, the second sign, early sign that your relationship will fail or will not last, is you're not able to talk to each other. All right. So speaking about, you need to talk about the sex thing. Well, here's a huge problem that a lot of people have, is getting into these relationships or while dating, you're enjoying this very superficial approach to the relationship. You guys maybe love hanging out, you're having fun. It might be you're partying all the time. It might be you watch movies together and have a bunch of sex, whatever, right? But what you're missing and overlooking is that you two are not able to sit down and talk to each other. And not simply, how's your day? What are you doing today? Which is cool, you gotta do that too, right? But I'm talking about talking, going deeper with each other, being more emotionally vulnerable. Too many people are quicker to become physically naked and not emotionally naked. And my thing is, like, if we're trying to have a real relationship and if we're trying to have long-term success, we have to learn how to be emotionally naked, and we have to feel comfortable being emotionally naked with this specific person, because the reality is that sometimes the struggle to talk to each other can be a personal issue, or it can be an issue of who you're dealing with. All right. And you got to ask yourself that, because let's be real. There are some of you who can open up to people in general, but you're struggling with this specific person. And you got to ask yourself why. And they would have to ask themselves that same question. Like, what is the blockage here? For some, it may be that you feel a judgmental energy from this individual. And even though you like them and there's other great qualities about them, you can't overlook the fact that if you feel that they're very judgmental towards you or towards people in life, you're going to be in a relationship that you feel very restricted, like almost in a jail emotionally, and walking on eggshells. That's not healthy. You know what I'm saying? The other thing might be, well, you don't feel like you can talk to them because they get angry really fast. They have a bad temper. Again, not a red flag you should be overlooking. This has to be addressed. And I have to stress that, yes, this whole video is for men and women. But I'm stressing this point right now as far as women having the temper tantrum or the temper period. Because I think sometimes when we talk about these things, we think about men being the ones who can't communicate and being overly aggressive with the way they speak. And yes, this does happen. But there are tons of women who are the same way, if not worse. So either way, man or woman, you got to pay attention to that. Is it judgmental? Is it they get mad easily? Is it that you just feel like they don't listen? All right. And here's the thing, whatever it is, any of those three things or any additional things that I may have missed, you can't really, it's hard to expose that if you don't at least try to talk. So please understand that I do not want you to scapegoat these things without even attempting to talk to this individual. You got to make sure you're doing your part to open up and be expressive. But yes, if you start noticing this person is shutting you down or creating an environment that does not allow you to feel comfortable talking to them, you have to address these issues. And if they are not corrected, you've got to let them go, because this is a very clear sign. This relationship will not last, because there is no successful relationship that long-term that has poor communication. And please do not confuse two people staying together as an example of success. Longevity does not equal success. Success is the quality of the relationship. So I can point to people being together for 20 years, but the quality of the relationship is horrible. And I can show you two people who probably can't talk to each other, but they tolerate each other for various reasons. My goal is not to help you tolerate any damn person. It's to help you have a successful, harmonious, happy, healthy relationship with an individual. So if you are not able to talk to them, you cannot sweep this under the rug. You cannot make excuses for this. It has to be corrected, or you have to let them go. Which brings me to number 3, and that is the relationship is very surface driven. So again, as I mentioned earlier, many people overlook the lack of communication the inability to talk to each other because they're so focused on the surface of it all. Damn, they look so good, or damn, the sex is so good, or oh, I have fun with them, or oh, they have a great job, or like all these things that are very superficial. The resume is awesome, the imagery of this relationship or this potential relationship looks great, but the depth of it does not exist. The substance is not there. And so if you are too busy only playing on the surface, you're going to play yourself. Plain and simple. You've got to be able to go deeper with each other. And you got to understand this is not about, oh, well, we'll learn each other in time. Time is not the decider of learning each other. Effort and a willingness to talk, repeating that one point, a willingness to talk is the decider of learning each other. There are people who have known each other for 2 years and have lived on the surface of the relationship for 2 years, and they don't know each other as well as two individuals who've only been dating for 2 months, but went deep with each other, really opened up to each other, shared their true core with each other. This is what you need. And you cannot, again, overlook that. So when I see two people who are simply operating on the surface, I know this is going to fail. And let me say this. Here's the reality. I don't want to put a specific time frame on it. But just for the sake of this example, if we are 6 months in, a year in, and if I sit down and talk to you and I see this relationship is still surface driven, I already know this is done. And I say that and I make that point to highlight the fact that if you didn't even find a way to go deeper with this person in that amount of time, that means either there's nothing deeper there to even grab onto, or you're afraid of what you're going to see if you do go deeper. Like, you know damn well something's not right here. You know they're not for you, but you want to hold on to the good stuff on the surface to validate staying with this person. Because two people who have a genuine connection, two people who it's really there with each other, they automatically go deeper. It deeper pulls them in. It's like a undeniable force of nature that happens when two people really click like that. So when two people can be together for so long and still be surface driven, that means there's a huge disconnect in this relationship and it will inevitably fail. All right, so let's keep this moving. The fourth early sign that relationship will fail is that it's a one-sided relationship. And so some may say, well, that's common sense. But the reality is that a lot of individuals engage in these one-sided relationships. A lot of people, and it may be you, sometimes become so, I hate to use the word desperate right now, but I'm going to use the word desperate. So desperate for this relationship, so desperate to hold on to this person that they lose sight of the fact that they're the only ones pouring into the relationship. And that it is very one-sided and built upon what they do for them rather than that person also doing for you. And so building upon that foundation is a faulty, horrible foundation, and that's why it's going to last for various reasons. One, you have to understand that if you even embraced a one-sided relationship to begin with, there is something within you that needs healing that's allowing you to engage in such a broken dynamic. All right. Number two, if that person is allowing themselves to take and not give, then they're not genuinely in love. And so again, that just shows the foundation for success is not there. All right. And they may be narcissistic. They might have their own issue. Well, they got some issue somewhere. All right, that allows them to be selfish and just take from you and not give. So again, it's just showing you more reasons why this will fail. Also, let's look at it from the specific dynamic of, let's say it's a man chasing a woman, all right? I always say, listen, nobody should be chasing anybody. You need a mutual effort. So let me make 2 points that you need to understand. If he is chasing the woman, all right? And some men will allow themselves to do that because, again, they become so infatuated and obsessed with getting this woman that they don't even consider that she is not pouring back into him. But that will not last because at some point when he finally gets you, he will now look at you like, okay, it's your turn. I did my part to get you. I chased you. I put in all this effort. Now, where is my reward for this? And so when it starts off one-sided, it will continue one-sided. It will just flip sides. Okay? So he may be the one doing all the work now, but it's going to be you doing the work later if you accept staying in that relationship. But it should not have been like that to begin with. But also consider the fact that another reason why that relationship is going to fail is because let's just say it's not even about the man being chasing and switching tables on you later. If I see a situation where the man or the woman is putting all the effort in, for this specific example, I have to speak on the man putting the effort and the woman not truly engaging in a mutual effort. Even if he is genuine and has serious intentions with you, a man with genuine interest cannot keep this going without you reciprocating, all right? And you'll see a lot of situations, I've seen a lot of situations where the man is going hard for the first few months. The woman takes a wait and see approach, thinking, well, I'm the woman, I'm the prize, so he needs to show me that it's worth it for me to open up. But then all you do is push him away because now he feels devalued. He doesn't feel appreciated. He doesn't feel like you are as serious about him as he is about you. And then when he walks away or when he falls off with his effort, I've seen many women now say, well, the man was always playing games. No, he wasn't playing games. You was the one playing. You were the ones with your walls up. You were the one who wasn't matching his energy and effort. Again, both sides should be making a mutual effort to build a healthy relationship. And when it's a one-sided affair, this is a clear sign this relationship is not going to last. All right, so now the fifth sign that the relationship will not last is you can't be yourself around them. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna make this one kind of quick. For relationships, again, a lot of people are able to get into relationships by one, overlooking red flags, and by bringing forth their representative, all right? And your representative is not a sustainable personality. It's not sustainable behavior because it's not your true self. Now, many individuals don't know who the hell they truly are. And that's problem number one. We've got to take time to learn ourselves, love ourselves, and stand strong and confident in who we are as individuals and not play the game of trying to be something we're not to get someone, but instead be who we are and wait to receive the person who fully embraces that person. Now, that does not mean do not become the best version of yourself. So we should still be aiming to become better and evolve, but we have to identify who our true selves are and stick with that and grow from there, all right? So now when we're talking about these relationships and why they're not lasting or why they will not last, because again, if you are not being your true self, not only can you not sustain being the person that they have accepted you being, all right? But then you may find yourself entertaining someone that you don't really like in the long term either, all right? Because they don't really match who you truly are. So a lot of people put on this act to get who they want, only to turn around and be like, what the hell did I do to myself? Like, how did I set myself up? I don't like this person like that. And now you are uncomfortable, you are miserable because you can't be you. That's a huge problem. So when you cannot be yourself, you gotta address that first and foremost. But again, to eliminate that from even being a problem, you've got to learn and love yourself before you get in a relationship. But if you're already there, let me just say this, because some of you are watching this and you're already in a relationship, watching these signs to see if they apply to you, okay? But some of y'all already hit y'all in the gut and it does apply. But let's just say this one applies to you. You have not felt like you can be yourself around this person that you're with. Again, I'm not going to tell you to stop right now and go end your relationship. I'm going to tell you to identify your true self, to talk to your partner, because there are some cases that, hell, you might find out that being your true self, they love it even more, all right? And in other cases, they'd be like, yo, I didn't sign up for this. Nah, that's not going to work for me. Either way, discuss it, put it out there, start walking in your true self. And then if you two see that you guys cannot coexist anymore, all right, then we move on. We move on to bigger and better things, and we don't try to hold on to this because we've invested so much time and energy into this relationship, because it's not where we belong, and we have to be willing to accept that. All right, so now number 6. Number 6 is the balance of energy is off in the relationship. Now, this is a point that needs its own video. I'm just gonna let y'all know right now, but I'm gonna try to just give a quick summary of it. I have this thing called the balance of relationship energy. I believe that in order for a relationship to be successful, you have to have a masculine energy and a feminine energy. Even if you were to study and look at homosexual relationships, the ones that actually have success and are long-term, you will see that they embrace that dynamic, a masculine and a feminine. So when I see a relationship where one, either you're seeing the man and woman both being way too masculine, or the man and woman being very feminine, this typically leads to, this is not gonna work. Plain and simple. There is no balance of energy here. Things are thrown off, and one or the other is gonna get sick of the other person. And in many cases, when you have the man being very masculine and the woman being very masculine, if they're even able to get in a relationship with each other, and there's reasons why those two people may initially entertain each other. Typically in that dynamic, the man will get sick of the woman, all right? And on the flip side, if you have the feminine man and a feminine woman, the woman will get sick of the man, all right? Now listen, you live your life how you want to. If you, as a woman and man, if the woman listening to this want to say, oh, well, I don't mind being the masculine one and he can be the feminine one. If that's what you want for yourself, hey, knock yourself out. I don't believe that works long-term in the vast majority of cases, all right? I'll never say all, because I think there's always exceptions to every rule, but I think in the vast majority of cases, it only works long-term when the man is assuming the masculine role, the masculine energy, and the woman assuming the feminine energy. This is the sustainable balance, all right? They may initially be able to pull it off in reverse, initially, but in the long term, what you'll find in a lot of relationships is that, let's just say the woman's the masculine, the man's the feminine. In time, she starts to lose respect for the man. She starts to look down upon him. She starts to be less sexually attracted to him, all right? She feels like he doesn't take enough initiative. There's a lot of things that start to come about that leads to a lot of frustration and resentment in that relationship. On the flip side, the man's being the more feminine one, he starts to tend to not feel like he's being respected. He doesn't get treated like a man, or she doesn't let me be a man, which that's a whole nother discussion right there. And again, it turns into a lot of resentment and clashing in the relationship. And I always say, if you were to now see these two people cheat on each other, what you're going to see is, in the vast majority of cases, that woman will go cheat on that man with a more masculine man, and that man cheats on that woman with a woman that makes him feel like a king. So they essentially go search out the balance I'm laying out for you elsewhere, because they're not getting that balance of energy within the relationship. So you've got to be very careful. Again, it is your choice how you want to go about this, but you've got to understand, when the balance of energy is not correctly set, it is more than likely going to be the end of that relationship. That relationship is going to fail pretty much without a doubt. Now we have number 7, and number 7 sign that relationship is going to fail is fighting and disrespect. Plain and simple, listen, when people are dating and early on in a relationship, typically people are trying to put their best foot forward, all right? Whether it's a representative, whether it's just them wanting so bad to make this work that they're really putting forth their best effort, people usually tend, when they're serious about somebody, to want to be their best early on. So when you see an early sign of fighting and disrespect, it's pretty much downhill from there. Because it's like, yo, if you can't come with your best early on, then what do we have to look forward to later? If they cannot come correct and speak to you respectfully early on, it's probably going to get worse. And in many cases, unfortunately, worse becomes physical abuse, all right? Constant emotional abuse. It isn't just the one fight here. No, it becomes worse than that. So we got to be very aware of the early sign of fighting and disrespect. Listen, disagreement is acceptable. Disrespect is not. So there's nothing wrong with disagreeing. There's nothing wrong with, you guys having your opinions and maybe debating in a healthy manner. But when we're talking about fighting and disrespect, hell no. That's not acceptable. That cannot fly. And if that is not nipped in the bud early, because again, I always say, you don't just run from a red flag. You address it first. If you see the fighting or the disrespect and you address it, they correct it, okay, cool. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe they come from toxic environments where they think this is acceptable behavior. But once you make it known it's unacceptable, if they're willing to fix it, great. But if they continue, absolutely not. Gotta go, because again, if you continue with them, it's only gonna get worse and the relationship is gonna inevitably fail anyway. So let's wrap up these last few really fast. So number 8 is lack of healing and lack of trust. All right. So the reality is that many people jump from relationship to relationship, not having properly healed from their past. And typically this leads to one, actually selecting the wrong person to be with to begin with, because a lack of healing throws everything off. It creates a fear of vulnerability that causes people to now choose partners who they feel they have emotional control with. And now that may sound like an okay thing, but the reality is that no, it's extremely harmful. The safe choice is usually the wrong choice. And so people will make these safe choices thinking that I don't have to worry about these issues here. But in reality, there is no connection. There is no deeper love there. This is not where they truly belong. And that will show its ugly face at some point in that relationship. But then also, what baggage emotionally are we bringing into that relationship? And this is where this lack of trust comes in. It's one thing when the partner, the person we're dealing with, is behaving in ways that creates a lack of trust. But in many cases, people are coming in with a huge lack of trust because of how much they've been hurt by people in the past. When that is a present issue, that is typically going to lead to failure in the relationship. Again, now it's a correctable thing, but too many people overlook this and then wonder why things go left. Wonder why the quality relationship is as bad as it is. We have to be willing to do something about it. So real quick, get your copy of Love After Heartbreak. This is a best-selling book. It gives you the steps to healing from any hurt. Childhood trauma, relationships, you name it. It will lay out how to get it done. Click the link in the description or the comment section. Get your copy. I'm telling you, it will change your life. You just have to follow the steps as it's laid out in the book. But yes, lack of healing, lack of trust, definitely an early sign of the relationship is going to fail. The 9th sign the relationship is going to fail, and again, I have one last bonus after this, is bad timing. This is another one that requires a video of its own, but I will quickly say this. And this is one that's maybe harder to visually see, and as a person, you have to be honest with yourself. Sometimes we jump into relationships before we are truly ready. And it could be because of a lack of healing. It could be we haven't given ourselves time from that last relationship. It could be we are not fully ready to be as present as we need to be in this relationship. Maybe we are pursuing things in our career, in our purpose that right now requires our full attention. There's various reasons, but we got to be careful of jumping into a relationship before it is truly time, because when we do that, we will throw everything off. And yes, I believe in right person, wrong time. So many people have met the right person, but they got into the relationship at the wrong time, and that caused the relationship to fail. The relationship failing was not a sign that this is not the right person. It was a sign that these individuals had not gotten to a place they needed to as people before they could have success in a relationship together. Especially when you're dealing with the right person, because being with that right person requires a higher level of vulnerability, a higher level of communication, a higher level of all these qualities that we talk about in order to have success. And so you cannot cut corners and think everything's going to work out just fine. All right. And so the bonus I want to throw at you, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, is lack of connection. At the end of the day, I don't care how great the relationship looks. I don't care what else is going on. I don't care if you say, we've been doing well for the past few years, whatever, I don't know. All this stuff's coming in my mind. My point is nothing matters if there is no connection. And you gotta be honest with yourself about that. And the lack of connection contributes to not being able to be yourself around each other, the lack of in-depth conversation. A lot of these things that I talked about are symptoms of a lack of connection. But at the end of the day, you cannot overlook that. So many people get involved with individuals that they don't have a genuine connection with. You may have a high level of desire, a high level of attraction, but if connection is not there, the relationship is going to fail at some point, because that is the glue that keeps the two people together. And as I mentioned earlier, that is the ingredient that will allow you to have long-term great sex with each other. Because at the foundation of great sex is two people who desire and are willing to pleasure each other and pour into each other in the bedroom. And so when we meet each other, we may want to put our best foot forward and bring our best sex, right? But if we don't have that connection to where we like each other at our core, in time, that motivation will go away. And now people start to become more selfish in their sexual interactions with their partner. They're no longer looking to please you. They're only caring about pleasing themselves. Or they're only focused on, well, I'm not getting what I want, so F you. That's what pretty much happens in a lot of marriages and long-term relationships. But if connection is there, the desire to want to pour into each other and satisfy each other stays strong forever. And that's the fuel needed to keep showing up and be present, to keep learning each other, to keep evolving with each other so that we can always fulfill each other sexually. So you got to have that connection if you want to have success. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there.
When you meet the woman you have a connection with, she easily separates herself from the pack. If she is not separated from the pack, then there is not a connection there.
Wow.
All right. So if you're ever in a situation where you're contemplating